If you smoke, do so only in designated areas. Good housekeeping is another basic safety tip. Check out those janitor closets and other storerooms to make sure there are no flammables or combustibles improperly stored. Keep the areas clean, neat, and organized. Out of sight, out of mind is not good fire prevention. When storing oily rags, they must be stored in metal containers with a metal lid. If you store oily rags in cardboard or other containers, the oily rags can overheat and create spontaneous combustion and a fire. Keep electrical motors and other potential spark-producing equipment free from paper, cardboard, or other combustibles. Motors need ventilation to dissipate heat, and if there's poor ventilation from trash or other debris, they can overheat, causing a fire. When using electrical equipment, use it only as intended. This means if you have an electrical receptacle with only 2 plugs, you can only plug in 2 electrical appliances. The use of octopus plugs to increase electrical outlets is a fire hazard and should not be used. Never use flexible cords as fixed wiring. This means don't staple cords to floors or walls. Don't run extension cords through doors or walls or other spaces. The hazard is the extension cords can rub up against the wall, creating a worn wire, and if overheated, it can cause a fire. Electricity can overheat from a variety of methods. Perhaps the amperage of the electricity is too high for the thickness of the wire in the cord. A short in one electrical appliance could cause the wire to overheat and burn. A cooling fan in a computer could cause the motor to overheat. There are many potential hazards, so you need to inspect your work area frequently and correct any potential hazard before it becomes a reality. Empty trash cans every day. Don't allow materials to pile up and become potential fire hazards. Learn where all the exits are located and that they aren't blocked. Many deaths have occurred over the years because exits were blocked and people couldn't get out in time.
First of all, what you have to do, say for instance you have a 3-story building. You have a 3-story building, you have employees on all 3 floors. You have to designate through the emergency operation manual a fire warden on each floor. Now his responsibility is to make sure that everybody on that floor gets out of that building during an emergency and they go to a pre-designated area outside the building. And so the wardens can make a head count to ascertain if everybody got out of the building.
If you have a fire sprinkler system installed, they should be checked frequently to make sure they are in the open position and ready to go in case of fire. If you do have sprinklers, don't store anything within 18 to 36 inches of a sprinkler head. This space allows the sprinkler to do its job in case a fire starts. Know the telephone numbers of emergency agencies such as the fire department and make sure that everyone knows what to do in case of an emergency. In the event of a fire, what should you do? Try to extinguish with a fire extinguisher or call the fire department. The correct answer is up to you, because the company should provide the proper procedures. However, in most companies, the correct answer is to call the fire department. Then, if the fire can be extinguished safely, then that's the thing to do. Life safety is paramount. If there is any danger, exit the building and leave the firefighting to the professionals. The primary reason to call the fire department, even in small fires, is that small fires can quickly get out of hand, and even 4 or 5 minutes can make a difference. Call the fire department because they would rather respond to a small fire than a major problem. Fire extinguishers are your first line of defense against small fires. But equally important is your knowledge of how to use them. There are different types of extinguishers for different types of fires. We already know that water is not to be used to extinguish electrical fires. Let's quickly review the different types of fire extinguishers commonly found in industry today. First, there is the ABC type extinguisher. It's labeled ABC because it extinguishes ABC type fires. The A extinguishing agent is used for combustibles such as wood, paper, or similar materials. B extinguishing agents are good for flammable liquid fires. C is for electrical fires. This tells us that an ABC type extinguisher is used to extinguish wood, paper, combustibles, flammable liquids, and for electrical fires. AD category extinguishers are used for metal fires such as magnesium and other metal fires. An ABCD extinguisher is designed to extinguish all types of fires. Another type of extinguishing agent is HALON. Halons are colorless, odorless, non-conductive gases or vaporizing liquids that apparently extinguish fires by inhibiting the chemical reaction of fuel and oxygen. In the event you have a HALON system that is activated, you should leave the area because human exposure should be limited to 1 minute of the concentration if it's as high as 7 to 10%. HALON extinguishers are safe to use, but in large concentrations, you should avoid these areas. HALON is used primarily on electronic and other equipment. The HALON will extinguish the fire, but it won't leave damaging residue on the equipment, as will dry chemical extinguishers. There are a wide variety of extinguishing systems, such as foam water spray systems, as shown here, and dry chemical systems used in restaurants. The important thing to remember is to understand how each system works and how to activate that system and what action should be taken in case of an emergency. Prevention is really what it's all about. Be aware of what's going on in your work area, and if you see a hazard, report it so the hazard can be eliminated. Make fire prevention part of your daily work habit. And as you see on television or read in the newspapers every day, fire prevention in the home is absolutely critical. Install smoke detectors in your home and check the batteries to make sure the equipment is working properly. Smoke detectors and an active home fire prevention plan and effort can save lives. Take fire prevention seriously because it deserves all the time and effort necessary to make the program work.
Store flammable liquids in approved containers and don't leave paint cans, thinners, solvents around your work area. They need to be stored in safety containers and properly stored when not in use. Check your equipment, especially your electrical cords, tools, plugs, and receptacles to make sure they're in serviceable condition. If you work with flammable liquids, pay attention to spark-producing tools, electrical motors, and other items that can ignite flammable vapors. You all know about safety containers. This isn't one. This isn't one. An approved flammable liquid container is one that has a spring-loaded lid to prevent spills, but will also allow the container to open slightly if the liquid expands. It allows excess pressure to escape, but won't spill the liquid. Gasoline cans like this cannot breathe, therefore expansion can cause the can to burst open. Perhaps the most important part of a safety container is the flame arrestor. It's a mesh screen inside the container that looks like a filter. It's designed to prevent flames from returning inside the container, causing an explosion. This type of can, which is sold in almost any hardware store or gas station today, does not have a flame arrestor. If you're pouring a flammable liquid out of this type of container and a spark or other ignition source causes a fire, the flame can be sucked back into the can, causing a violent explosion. You say you have one of these at home or in your car? Now you know the difference in a safety container and a potential bomb. We didn't even mention bonding and grounding of flammable liquid containers to reduce the potential of explosion due to static electricity. Whenever flammable liquids are transferred from one container to another container, the two containers must be bonded together by wire, and at least one of the containers must be grounded. This reduces static electricity and the chance of explosion when transferring flammable liquids. How about those soiled rags, oily clothing, and other fire hazards? Be sure to put soiled rags into safety waste cans, metal cans with lids on the top. You create spontaneous combustion problems by leaving greasy rags sitting in a corner. Use a metal container that has a lid. We could continue with fire prevention, such as not blocking exits with materials or equipment, smoking only in authorized areas, emptying trash daily, knowing where the exits are located, and keeping your equipment clean to prevent residue buildup and fire potential, but we don't have the time to cover these subjects in this program. They're common sense items, and you understand the importance of preventing fires rather than trying to put them out. Preventing a fire is far better than extinguishing a fire. Okay, enough background. Let's get to the nitty-gritty of using fire extinguishers. Remember the word pass. Pull the pin, aim the nozzle, squeeze the handle, and sweep from side to side. Let's watch the expert in action on a flammable liquid fire in a small pan in a well-ventilated and safe area. We didn't want to take a chance with setting a building on fire and trying to put it out. We tried that once and almost didn't put it out. Be sure to aim the extinguisher at the base of the fire and stand approximately 8 to 10 feet from the fire. Then you squeeze the handle. If you run up to the fire and squeeze the handle, the force of the gas and extinguishing agent could spread the flames. Stand away, squeeze the handle, then move closer. After the fire is out, check to make sure it's really out. Too many times, fires start up again after you think they're out. That's why we recommend calling the fire department, even if you think you can put out the fire. If you extinguish the fire, they can double check to make sure it's out permanently. They're happier if you already have the fire out, but they get real upset if you don't call them until the fire gets out of hand. It's also a good idea to communicate and train with your local fire department. This gives them better training and more familiarity with your facilities in the event of an emergency. Contact your fire extinguisher service vendor and request hands-on training with fire extinguishers. That about does it for now. Remember the classes of fire and the word PASS. And of course, remember good housekeeping and fire prevention is everyone's responsibility.